I am thrilled to announce our next panel, which is called Sustaining a Career, with many wonderful people here. So we have Sufiya Ahmed, Serena Patel, we have Fatimaharan, we've got Nizrana, Farouk, and we've got Radhika Sanghani, and we are being chaired by the wonderful Chitra. So put your hands together and enjoy.
Thank you. Okay, so we're going to jump right in because we've been talking about getting into the publishing, all the problems and barriers in the morning. So my question is going to be more positive, the first one. What's one thing that lifts you up during your writing process? You've been writing for a long time, you've got lots of books, you've been illustrating for a long time, and you were drawing here as well. What is that one thing that gives you joy when you're working on your writing? The mics are there. If you pick up and then share. Yeah, go for it.
Okay. I think for me, like when I write my books for children, it's very much thinking about my younger self and what kind of book she would have wanted to read. So that's what brings me joy when I get to write the kind of book that I can imagine younger Radhika picking up and just, yeah, really connecting to the reader.
So for me, it's remembering that at the end of this process, with all the frustrations with editors and agents and, just solving plot points and, all sorts of things, it's knowing that there's going to be a product at the end, the finished book that's going to be on shelves in bookshops and in libraries. And that image, just knowing that that is waiting, that is something that keeps me going.
Amazing.
I like designing the characters and also coming up with the roughs. It's the kind of stage of the process which allows for idea generation as an illustrator and also experimentation as well. And I love trying to kind of find a connection with the characters and putting myself in the character.
So I think my answer is probably quite different to all of those because the writing process itself I find really, really difficult. Although I love it, I find it really challenging. And I think the thing that kind of picks me up during those I can't do this anymore moments is quite often I'm out on school visits all through the year, and usually while I'm writing as well. So the kind of connecting with the readers and just that reminder of who you're writing for and why you're doing this, and getting that feedback from them that they've loved a character you wrote or they loved a particular scene in a book. That I always walk away from school visits feeling really inspired and ready to go again. So that kind of rejuvenates me, I guess.
For me, it's the story that pops up into my mind and making the connections and then thinking, what do I want the reader to walk away from this story? And I absolutely love the first draft. I'm really old school. I don't write on the keypad. It's always in a notebook, so it scribbles. And I love that part of just it all flowing onto paper. It does look a mess, but it's there. And then I redraft it and redraft it and redraft it. And then once I've handed it in, and I really dread it because I absolutely hate editing, but you need to do that. So for the first part.
Yeah, I always scream into a pillow when the notes come in. And then I need the night before I start off again and say, okay, they are making sense. But they didn't understand me. That always happens, isn't it? So, but all of you have written something that's connected to your culture. Alan, you've done lots of different illustrations, so not necessarily, but I think some of the books that you've done are all for people of color. Do you feel the pressure to stay in the box? Do you feel the pressure to tell only those kind of stories? If you wrote an alien book or a pirate book or a Santa Claus book, do you think that's going to go anywhere? Yeah, no, up to you. Jump in if your answer is coming in. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, I think, do you know what's really interesting? I started my career writing novels for adults. And my very first two novels I wrote when I was 21, 22, I didn't have my main character as a British Indian like me. I was writing rom-coms and I made her white. And I think like back then it's because that's all I knew in a rom-com. And so over the years in my adult novels and now in my middle grade and YA, like I always make sure my main character looks like me because that's just really important for me. So funnily enough, it was the opposite journey. And I've never felt like I have to do that. I think for me, it's more just, write what you know. And I want to write about people who look like me. And I also, but I went to a multicultural school in London. So all my characters are kind of a real mix. So I think so long as I feel like it's being authentic to me, that's really all that matters.
So for me, I sort of naturally fell into writing about a character from my background. I say naturally, but I'm not really sure how that came about because when I started writing, like you, I was writing, about what characters that look like me. So, but when it came to publication, the book that I thought would, might get published was this. So I've sort of kind of made it easy for my publisher. I didn't, I don't have that pressure of being, of thinking that I have to write a certain way or certain stories because I was doing that anyway. So, and that's what I wanted to do, crucially. It wasn't, from pressure from anybody, but that's how it fell. And, I've continued to write like that in a way, even with my next book, which is something quite different to the previous four that I've written. But even with that, there is still a strand of, something to do with me in it. So, yeah, so far, thankfully, I've not really felt that pressure.
I think even if we write pirates, we put us into the story, isn't it? So it is, we are writing, it's come from our experience. But how do you do, Alan? Can you?
So I get sent texts to illustrate. So I usually in contact with the author, and they kind of giving me constant feedback on the rough character designs and the locations. And quite a lot of the books I illustrate are characters who kind of from a very different cultural background to mine. So it's kind of a balancing act of trying to get the author's vision for characters into the designs, but also putting some of my own details into the work as well.
Okay. Do you feel like you get only books by people of color, or they send you all sorts of books?
I do get sent all different, and I've had non-fiction as well as fiction books to illustrate. So yeah, but it's mostly yes. I would get characters from South Asian backgrounds, and other ethnic minorities as well.
So I think for me, it's always been really important that my main character is British South Asian, primarily because of growing up not having those books and never seeing somebody who looked like me on the cover of a book or as the main character. And I think that's kind of what I'm known for now, is writing these funny books with British South Asian main characters. So I think it would feel unnatural to me to write anything that wasn't a British South Asian main character. That's not to say that I would never write something with aliens or pirates or, monsters, or I would. But I think, especially in this time, it feels really important to write these books, and for them, for children to have books that have a British South Asian main character who is just solving a mystery or just getting a pet or, just living their lives. So I think that's...
Yeah, incidental representation. Don't want to mention that this person is brown.
Yeah.
And this shade of brown. That kind of stuff. Yeah,
exactly.
absolutely.
Yeah, I'd agree with all of that. And I don't think it ever occurred to me not to write British South Asian characters. It just naturally, I've been writing since I was a child, and my characters were always, people that looked like me. And I know we always come across this whole, it's always mentioned that, children don't see themselves. And I didn't see myself in those books when I was growing up. I grew up with Enid Blyton, the authors that were mentioned in the first panel, Enid Blyton and others. But it still just wouldn't occur to me, which is very different to now, because when I do school visits now, you can do a creative writing workshop and the children will do green eyes and blonde hair. And then you say, well, no, your character's Asian and you're supposed to be writing a version of my book, my Rosie Raja, for example. And they were like, yeah, but, blonde hair looks nice. And you think, well, no, do it again.
That's good. Yeah, I normally say it doesn't have to be a Bob or a John or a Mary or a whatever, but
I just want to say that I think the reason I always was fine to write about people that look like me was because I grew up on Bollywood, and I'm the 80s child that we had video recorders at home, and I grew up with Sri Devi and Madhuri Dixit and Zinat Aman, and I grew up with this idea that I can see myself, and my hair and my skin color and my eyes are like theirs. So I never felt that I was looking on to somebody else and thinking, oh, I want to look like that, or I'm not important. I think Bollywood played a real difference to people of my generation because they were on our TV sets every Sunday when we were watching family movies. But I think it's very different now. Kids don't.
We don't see as much, isn't it? They do have some on ITV, but it's during South Asian Heritage Month. The rest of the time, you don't need to see Indian movies. That's kind of what they look like. But when you are working on books and you're writing alone, a lot of us talk about how we sit in our house and some of us need the concentration to sit and some of us work in coffee shops, whatever. But what kind of community, peer mentoring, or even mentoring from somebody? I remember we were talking about in the first panel that we don't have somebody who you will support you, give you advice. Did you have any of that? Either, like, for example, probably you did Bad Spa as well, so it could have been that. What kind of support network did you build for yourself? Who's your tribe? You want to start, Sufiya, this time? Tribe. Who's the people who surrounded?
Everyone in this room. So Sita, who gave our keynote this morning, she was very, very supportive, and she introduced me to my agent about 13 years ago. I think when I started off about 13, 14 years ago, it was very, very few of us. There's a lot more now. But really, just, support group, WhatsApp groups. Yeah, I think Sita and just a few others. I think just Sita, actually.
But Sita's lovely. I did the same thing because Twitter was a actual real place where you can connect with people, and we used to connect with each other. And I emailed Sita a DM and said, "Can I come and have a chat?" And she, fed me lunch and had chats with me. So yeah, we all need that community, isn't it? Oh, she's here. Where is she? Absolutely. This is exactly why SailFest came about, is we want not just open the door, but hold the door open for the rest of generations to come through and not have the same problems. It's always nice when somebody like Radhika or the next, even younger people I meet say, what issues do you have? I don't have any. Yes, that's what we want, isn't it? So who's your tribe, Serena?
Well, some of them are in this room today, and Nizrana is part of that tribe. So I was quite early on, I was pulled into a Twitter group. And as you say, Twitter used to be a real place for connecting with other authors and encouragement and opportunities. And I was pulled into a group of authors who were all sort of starting out in their journeys, or quite early on in their journeys. And it's just been a lifeline, really. And it's the place that I go most days, even if it's not to say anything, it's just to kind of listen to what everyone else is chatting about, to offer support or get support. So sometimes we're chatting about life, parenting, all sorts of things, but it is truly a lifeline. And I don't think I would have as much confidence in myself or be as assured if I didn't have that group, because I think publishing is a lot of noise. There's often, there's a temptation to compare where you are with what everyone else is doing. But I think that group is really good at grounding me and just bringing me back to reality, and just kind of giving me that kind of perspective. So yeah, I'm very grateful, and they know who they are in this room. I won't embarrass them.
Can you pass the mic to Alan?
So I did a master's course in animation, and most of my mentoring came from that course. And after I finished and started working as a professional, I was able to email my mentors and get advice on projects I was working on. And I also did some online courses after I finished, which had and some good mentors from that as well. So I would, when I'm working on illustration projects or animation projects, I would still email them for feedback when I need it, and feel like I'm getting stuck. So yes, most of my mentoring has come from my animation training, similar to the creative writing master's course as well.
They just want you both to speak a bit louder. That was the note.
Okay, so you know this, Chitra, but like you said, yeah, I was in the Bath Spa MA, and on the very first day or second day, I think, I walked into class and I saw Chitra and Yasmin in the class, and that was everything to me because everybody else was white, and it was but there was no diversity. I think that was.
I think we were the 2 years when we were there, like you were there for a year, were four of us, all South Asians in the room, and
Yeah.
everybody else were confused.
Yes, four of us. The other one was Pooja Puri.
Yeah.
Some of you might know her as well. Yeah, so that was everything to know that there are others like you, because it can feel quite isolating when you're the only person in a room of authors and you look different. So this having them there, gave me the confidence to know that I belonged, and this world of writing could be for me. That was obviously very early stages. I didn't know if I would be published, but yeah, that meant a lot. And then later, when I did get my deal, as Serena said, then I found another tribe there. And that was so important in the early stages when you're very new to this game and you don't know what to expect. You don't know, because everyone has their own journey. Some people are immediately super successful, some people take a bit longer. So seeing all those people, together and sharing their experiences, that really helped as well.
Gosh, it's so interesting to hear this because I haven't had that at all. I'm sat here feeling a bit lonely, like, oh my goodness, I actually have never had a support group.
You have all of us now.
Yeah, and thank you. It's just, yeah, it's really interesting hearing how much it's helped you all, because I just didn't have that. Like when I had my first book published at sort of 22, I didn't know any writers, I didn't know anything. And then over the years, I guess I feel like I've just been navigating it all alone. I just don't know that many writers. And I would go to like writing meetups, just like random ones online, and I would meet other writers, but rarely people who are in the same place as me. So it's been a big part of my journey now that actually like I try to support new writers, and I work as a writing mentor to kind of help people with the writing part of their journey, but also the publishing part, because I found it really lonely. And yeah, I guess I'm still in the market for a tribe. So if anyone wants to,
We're all here. Yeah, I think that's the key thing to take away from that. And this is something that a lot of new writers come and speak to me. You have to find people at your own level as much as you have to find people from a higher level, because the things that you are going through at your level is very different to the person who's already gone before you. So you want both kind of relationships. But when you're sustaining a career, one part is the tribe, one part is the community, the other part is the money part, right? So we all know it doesn't pay enough. When kids ask me in school, how much are you paid? I'm like, always say, not enough, and definitely not enough to have a helicopter to come down on your helipad and do signing books. But we all do different things. We all wear different hats to make a living, especially like me, I'm not married, so I don't have a husband who can cover for me if I'm not making the money, kind of thing. So what are the various things you do, and where are the various avenues of income that people can learn about?
Perfect. I was going to say school visits. It's you have to do them. It's not just so much that the publisher expects it from you, but you can charge between 500 and 1,000 a day for about 4 hours work. You might have to travel to all over the place, but you can. Well, depending on what kind of lifestyle you have, live it quite minimal like I do, then you can. School visits will pay. You have to do that. And I think if you don't do school visits, I think your publisher will have an issue with that. I don't think your second book deal will come, or third or fourth.
I think it depends on the publisher and the kind of books we write as well, isn't it?
Well, it depends, first of all, I think, on the marketing that they've allocated to you. So it depends on whether your book is on the Waterstones tables, because they will sell themselves. But if you have one copy on the A to Z of authors in the corner, my name's Ahmed, so I'm in that corner, no one sees it. There's no visibility. So unless you're getting the marketing, you have to do the school visits. Yeah. They will expect it. And there's no way around that.
So that's one is school visits. What else can you do?
So I would say sign up for PLR. So once you're published, make sure you register your book for PLR, because that will give you, might be a small amount, but it might be a big amount. It depends how many copies you've sold that year. Sorry, that's library. I'm getting myself mixed up. So PLR is libraries. So every time your book is borrowed, you will get a small amount of money for that. And then there's also ALCS.
So PLR is public lending right. So it's a UK Irish thing. It is not in America. So if you publish a book in the UK or Ireland and the libraries buy and somebody borrows, there is a system by which they calculate how much you can be paid for that. So make sure you're registered, right?
Yeah.
And then the other place to register is ALCS, which basically gives you money when somebody photocopies your book in schools and other libraries and other places. So register for both.
Yeah, register for both. And then the other thing I was going to say is I've done a lot of work with the National Literacy Trust as well. So if you can kind of get your book in front of them, they're really good at getting you involved in some of their programs with schools. They do various events, which they'll pay you for. So they'll always pay you for your time. And then I get income from things like judging competitions, festivals, various different types of events. So I'd say the bulk of my income comes from all of that, really. And then secondary to that would be book contracts.
But yours is very different, isn't it, Alan? Your structure.
I have a
He's going to show you all the things he does.
So this is 40% my income is from books, and then 30% from animation, and then 20 from editorial illustrations and advertising illustration, and then 5% from events, and then 5% from PLR and royalties, which was mentioned earlier. So I think just doing one thing, I can't make a career. So to pay the bills, I need to and sometimes I get more animation work in a year than book work, so it kind of shifts between the two. I think I've got examples of book work. This is also educational books. So these are like textbooks and exercise books. So they're very different from trade books. They go kind of educational market and also foreign ELT, English language teaching. So yeah, animation for different clients, making short films, and animation for museums and galleries and libraries, editorial illustrations, and events. So these are all the ways that I make a living.
And I think that's true for authors as well, isn't it? You can do educational work if you let your agents know that you want to write for education. There's a range from phonics to. Have you done any?
Yes, I have. So I was about to say, because that was very interesting to see your breakdown. I should try it out for mine and see. I think, yeah, for me as well, my main income is from my books, but I have quite a significant gap between my fourth and fifth books. And obviously for us, our bills don't stop just because, publisher has pushed the book. So I have done some smaller projects. So with OUP, I've done a couple of reading scheme books. And those were quite useful because, you just you get paid and you finish with them and that's it. That's it. You're not promoting them or going into, bookshops and signing, or you have none of that. So it's kind of a short-term commitment, I feel that it's a lot of work, but compressed into a very short time, so you just finish it, get paid, and the money is quite useful then. So that's something you could do. Like you said, you could tell your agents. I mean, I didn't get it through my agent. Somebody sent me a link. I think it might be somebody on our group. I can't remember who it was, but where OUP, they were looking for diverse creators to do their new series of readers or something. So I went to some kind of a webinar that they had where they explained their process, and then they said, send some writing samples. So with that, you have to be careful because obviously OUP, they're very reputed and, lots of people have done them. But I was also approached by another publisher and I was very interested because, there was a bit of a gap at that point where I could have used the work. And I wasted a lot of time on that, and then, the pay was so low, it was like an insult, and I don't know if I should say, but it's a big global sort of publisher, not a traditional one like the ones we're used to, but a very big name. And I was quite shocked, and I didn't even want to reply to them. I got my agent to, call them. And
That's exactly what agents are for, to
Yeah.
deliver bad news both directions.
Yeah, and also to say, this is not on. You can't expect an author to do this kind of work for, it was like slave labor. I mean, we are used to not being paid that well, but this was, beyond that.
Yeah. I think you have to be careful and you have to evaluate. And if you have an agent, they will tell that as well. But you have to check for yourself whether the amount of work you put in is worth that. Because those books won't be in shops either. So there's no other reason why you should be doing that.
Can I sorry.
Yeah, of course.
Sorry, I just wanted to add something to that. Just that I think there's an inclination when you start out to say yes to everything, because you're so grateful to be here, and you kind of feel like, yeah, I never need to say no, because if I say no, they won't ask me to do the next thing. So you take on quite a lot in the beginning, and I just would advise anybody to it's okay to say no sometimes. If it's not, as you say, it's not financially viable or it's not something you really want to do, I think, yeah, it's all right to say no.
My trick is not say no, say maybe later. And just not do the later ever, but do say maybe later, I'm very busy right now, and then move on. So they might still ask you again next time, but you can still say again, maybe later one more time.
So I do quite a lot of things, and I make myself laugh when I look at my website because it has like 6 tabs for the different kinds of jobs I do. So what are my jobs? Okay, so there's journalism. I was a full-time journalist, and now I still do some freelance journalism on the side. My books are the main bulk of my income. And I feel like I do a lot of different genres of book writing, and that helps. Last year I had a middle grade book out and I had a YA book out, and I wrote them both, the year before. So it's like, yeah, different markets helps. And then so journalism, books, screenwriting. I do a bit of screenwriting. I write for Mallory Towers on CBBC, which is so wholesome. And what's really lovely is that it all starts to fit together. I always thought of it as quite disparate, but now I can see, one of my jobs that I do is I teach yoga. And then I just wrote a middle grade book called How to Get Magically Popular, where the girl does yoga and meditates and becomes psychic. So it's like, I get to merge it all. And now when I do school visits, which is the other tab, I get to combine yoga. And it's just, I guess I just do the things that make me happy. I love writing. And it's just really nice that as time goes on, they can all kind of work together as well.
Amazing. So if you're all doing this many number of jobs, right, you're always having more than one book on the go, most probably, right? Because you're writing one book, you're editing one book, maybe you're copy editing one book, whatever, and you're working on different projects. How do you multitask? What are your tips for multitasking?
Spreadsheet.
Spreadsheets. I love anybody who loves a spreadsheet.
Yeah, no, for me, I really have to be really regimented, and I have, my deadlines for everything because I'm working on so many different things. But I try and I can't work on too many books at once. So it has to be like, okay, I'll do this book until July, and then I'll schedule in edits on that one. So I really plan it like that. And yeah, it's also for me about knowing myself. Like, I know that I can't write a creative book, for 8 hours a day. Like, my brain cannot do that. So I do maybe 4 hours, and then I'll do something else, like a bit of journalism or my writing mentoring, just to mix it up.
Great.
I'm actually terrible at multitasking, so I have no tips.
But that is a tip. If you have to know yourself, like Radhika said, and like Nizrana says, don't multitask if that's not your strong point, because what you don't want to do is be that author who misses the deadline or forgets that they have to be at an event 2 hours before somebody calls and says, "Where are you? You're going up on the stage in 10 minutes." So that's a good tip.
Yeah, I struggle, even though I do quite different work. But I think having a pause in between each job helps me. So I would, if I'm working on a children's illustration in the morning, and then I have to do an editorial illustration in the afternoon, I would go for a walk for an hour, and then come back and then start on the next job. I can't shift seamlessly from one job to another. I think I always need a pause and come back to it.
Serena?
I think for me, knowing yourself is a huge part of it. And somebody said something on the panel before about this job allowing them to be themselves for the first time. And I think that's what this job gives me. I worked in offices for years before I was an author, and I used to really struggle sitting at a desk for 8 hours a day. And what I've realized is that I work really well in short bursts. So I can do 2 hours in the morning, or I can do an hour on the train, and I'll be really, really productive, and the words will just come. But if I sit there and try and force myself, it's not going to happen. The other thing is I really struggle with overwhelm. So my ADHD brain can do a lot, but then when it hits a wall, I'm kind of out. So I schedule myself rest days. I actually write in my diary, rest, because otherwise it won't happen. And yeah, I'm not a spreadsheet person, but I do write a lot of lists. So I write lists for absolutely everything in my life. And that's really the way I kind of cope and get through, and hopefully don't drop anything along the way.
This is my kind of panel, which is why I'm hosting lists, spreadsheets, all the stuff.
So I 6 days a week, I do 2 hours of writing. Even if I've had a school visit, I will on the train just get 2 hours in. It might just be notes or whatever. And I found that's the only way I can stay on top of my contracts. I might not want to do the edits or work on that particular book. I might have a fresh idea. I'll spend 2 hours doing that. But I do the 2 hours. And it's come from this fear I have that if I don't do it, I might forget how to write. Because every time you start a new book, you're like, oh, how do I do this again? And that fear has kind of, I think it's my agent as well. She's always like, oh, what are you doing now? You know, we've got this deadline, that deadline. And I'm like, well, and I've got school visits. But as long as I do 2 hours of any kind of writing, I feel like I'm in control of it.
Yeah.
So control is really important otherwise, especially around, so in the springtime when you have World Book Day, which is actually World Book Month.
Yeah, it
You're
is.
out on the road, and you know everything can become a bit too much. But as long as I have the 2 hours, and it can be, I'll be sitting on a platform and I'll do half an hour of writing on my phone or in a notebook. Yeah.
Fantastic. So we've got time to ask a couple of more questions before we turn over into from the audience questions as well. So my question to you is to the industry. If you wanted to remove one barrier or create one possibility for South Asian authors, what would that be? What is your dream of, if only this is there, that kind of situation, what would that be?
I'll go first. I think all publishers should get together and declare that all South Asian, well, all BAME authors need marketing budgets, please.
Okay, so you want marketing budgets. Okay, very good. And I think there is a difference between publicity and marketing. Publicity is whatever is free, and marketing is where they actually put the money on the table. So we want more marketing.
Can I back it up?
Yeah.
And I just want to say that I think we should talk about this as an industry. And I know this is open, it's going online as well, and maybe publishers are watching. But with established authors who have quite a few books out, there is this fear that this whole sort of diversity drive that they've been doing for the last few years, because of the CLP reflecting reports, is now going to just sink. So reading for pleasure's down. Is diverse books being blamed for it behind closed doors, maybe? Yeah. And I think as brown people and black people as well from their organizations, well, we need to push back and openly and vocally as well, that you can't just publish our books and not put them in Waterstones on the tables, or, you know, not push them in your school newsletters, because otherwise what is the point of publishing them?
Yeah, I think publishing should include automatically them to having to promote that book. Otherwise, it's a tick box exercise, isn't it?
A complete tick box.
Yeah, Serena?
That was probably what I was going to say in terms of marketing.
That's so good.
It would just be really nice, I think, to see a book with a South Asian main character on a tube poster or in the big window at Piccadilly, or, you know, just to get that level of, I think there's levels of marketing, isn't there? And so not just a marketing budget, but that next level of book promotion would be really lovely to see.
They need to believe in it so much that they want to do all of those things.
Yeah, because we see that with some books, right? We see, you know, oh, it's the next whatever, and they go all out for it. And I know this varies publisher to publisher because different publishers have different budgets, different priorities. But yeah, it would just be really nice one day to go on the London Underground and see a book with a brown kid on the cover, you know, just having an adventure.
And it probably is a thing that brown children will see and be inspired as well. It's not just us going, wow, look at that. It's also...
And can I just add to that? And also to push back within the industry, the idea that books by writers of colour are for children of colour. They're not, they're stories. And I think having worked with so many different publishers and different people, I noticed a high turnover for people leaving because they're not doing their jobs right in publicity, is that, you know, you can't have publicity or marketing people thinking, oh, okay, how can I slot this into this sort of small community, if you like? You know, it's a story and the stories are for everyone. And it's still not changing, because you can go into a school library on a school visit and you will see a display of books by writers of colour. And I always push back, because I'm like, my books are historical fiction. Most of them are World War II. I should be on a shelf with Michael Morpurgo, you know, Tom Palmer, Phil Earle, Emma Carroll. Why have you put my book next to a non-fiction physics books by a person of colour? You know, it's just, it doesn't work. You have to have that pushback. It's the same in Waterstones as well. You know, you'll have like black romance in one corner. It's still romance. Why are you sticking them in that corner? So that has to change. So sometimes I think, and I might be going out a bit on the edge here, but the constant diversity representation, I think it's pushed it to a bit where we are no longer included in the mainstream. We're on the corner, and that does nothing for us as
the push to inclusivity has excluded us.
Yes. If you like. Some
Yeah,
people might
I
not
agree.
like that, but that is my experience of it as an author.
No, I
So
totally
I no
agree.
longer say representation matters. I don't use that hashtag in my social media. We are here. You know, the CLP report was what, 6, 7, 8 years ago? Why do we still need to say that? Why do we still need to say that? We are here. It's like, you know, the quote from Toni Morrison, which is, stop justifying who you are. Our books are here. They're stories. They're for everyone. And I'm going to hand the mic over
Yeah.
because I'm going to start.
Alan, what would you like to see changed?
From the illustration side of things, I was mentioning mentorship that I had in animation. I think something like that in illustration for up and coming illustrators would be good. I know there's pop-up projects which did a course.
Yeah, I think they've finished now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're finished. Yeah, I think something like that to kind of regularly kind of help people every year get into the industry. Because unless you go to art school, do a BA, and because finances, you don't get lots of people from, especially working class South Asian backgrounds, going into those courses. So I think courses, mentorship courses like that.
Yeah, we've met a few illustrators here who said the same thing. So it'll be good to create a South Asian mentoring for illustrators. Okay. Yes.
Yeah, I think it would be good if there was more publishing staff were people of color.
Yes, gatekeepers.
So editors, yeah, all the gatekeepers, commissioning editors, you know, even publicists and, you know, all manner of publishing people. I think it would really help if they got us as well, and they would have the passion to promote us, because, you know, they might be personally interested in our stories as well. So, yeah, I think that would really help.
Yeah, we can embarrass Cherries one more time. She has been a champion of South Asian authors in Tate.
Yeah, I think, to be honest, everyone said it all. Like when you asked this question, the one word that came to my mind is like visibility in capital letters. Like that's what I want. And I feel like, you know, everything everyone said is just all, ways that we could, you know, our books could be more visible. So.
Great. Now, if I want to think about whether you guys want to be with one publisher or many publishers, how does that work? Some of you are with one publisher, some of you work for different publishers. What's your experience like? Do you think you want to work for everybody? Because I am with literally everybody, and therefore nobody supports me. Versus, when you're with one publisher, you probably get a lot of support because they can concentrate. So what is your experience of that? Yeah, go for it.
So my main publisher is Usborne, and they're who I started with. And I feel like they've really invested in me and in my career. So that's been a really positive experience. And then from that, I was invited to write for Barrington Stoke, and I've written 3 books for them. And that's also been a really positive experience. And I've got a really good relationship, I feel, with the editor there as well. And then I also was invited to co-edit an anthology with HarperCollins, which Barrington Stoke are part of now. And that was quite a good experience as well. So I feel like I've been really fortunate across the board, but I definitely feel like home is Usborne. And that's where, you know, I would go for that support. And they're the ones who've really championed me throughout my career. And they've, as I say, they've always said to me, they're in it for the long term, which I think when you hear that as a new author, that's so reassuring that it's not they're not just in it for one book. Because I did get some offers that were just for one book, whereas Usborne we're in it for the long haul.
Yeah,
so.
you want to feel like you can take the next idea to them and have it listened to at least.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, they've been really brilliant. So I think I've been quite lucky.
Nis, you're also with one.
Yes, so it's quite similar to Serena's actually. I'm with Nosy Crow, and similarly, they are in it for the long term. I feel like they have invested a lot in me, and they're quite committed to my stories. But there's also a sort of downside to that with a smaller publisher because, you know, when somebody is on leave or their, you know, editors have left or something, you just have to wait basically until they get everything together. So that's been financially, it's been a bit of a hit for me. You know, I'll have to admit that. But this is part of it. I think this is part of publishing because there are some disadvantages to being with different publishers. I don't know if I'd get the full backing of my publisher if I were to go with somebody else for a similar book. Or even a different book. I feel like, you know, they might not. So yeah, it's been, you know, it's kind of,
It's got
I have mixed feelings.
Yeah, it's got pros and cons, and you have to
Exactly, yeah.
evaluate yourself each time, isn't it? Do you have anything else to add, or should I go to questions?
Just one thing I think I would add is like, so I've got a mix as well. Like I've done a few books with Usborne, and I would love to continue with them. We'll see if the contract's ending, so who knows with the next one. But I've had different publishers for my adult fiction, and I was with Knights of for a YA book. So I've had a bit of a range of experience, and I guess like I don't have that same kind of 100% security that I feel like you have, Serena, that this is 100% my home and they're always going to be with me. But what I do feel like is that my agent's got my back, and that's also really comforting because I feel like she believes so fully in my writing that I feel safe that, you know,
And you will find a home.
Yeah, we'll do it together. So
brilliant. Do you want to add anything between Alan and Sufiya?
I worked with a few different publishers. Faber was the first publisher I worked with, and I think I probably
do you get repeat orders from them?
Yeah, and I think of them as kind of my home, maybe. But I've had good experiences with all the publishers I worked with, and also my agent's great, and I do feel like she has my back.
I always tell my agent, just go with who gives us the most money.
It is refreshing for people to say that. It is sometimes that you have to put yourself first, and if all things seem equal, if nobody's going to invest in marketing, might as well go for the one who's going to give you the most amount of money. Great.
But also, I'm not sure. I mean, do they give you less advance for a bigger marketing budget? I've not come across that.
I have no idea. I have never had bigger marketing budget.
I think the bigger advance you have, the higher chance you have of marketing because the money is allocated.
Yeah, because if they give you more money, they have to put marketing into it to make that money back, which is why celebrities get a lot more marketing because they've been given a bigger advance. So I think if we all quickly become celebrities, we can get bigger advances. So do we have questions in the room, and do we have any questions online as well? Can I have one of your mics? Yeah. Anybody with a question? Anybody online, Gunja? Great. We've been very, very good that nobody has any questions. Okay, Dave.
Hiya, thank you so much. A best and a worst experience of being an author, please.
Oh, you're returning the favor. We asked you that question. Go for it.
So I'll start with the worst. I think the worst was when before publication. So I had signed my contract, and it was before publication. My editor at the time is here in the audience. I know he knows what I'm about to say. So we had scheduled a publication date for I think it was June 2019. But we were having some issues with illustrations, and the decision was made to change the illustrator. And I was already working on the second book, so I was all kind of geared up. The book's coming out, and then it wasn't. And it was then pushed back to the following year. So it actually came out in March of 2020. And we all know what happened there. So we won't go there. But that time when I got that news, I just felt really devastated, because I thought, this is because it's me. This is because it's my book. They've changed their minds, really. They're just not saying. It's not going to be published. It's not happening. And it's all that internal stuff that you tell yourself, and you're going, well, I shouldn't be here in the first place. And, it's all a big mistake, and I just shouldn't have got my hopes up. So it was a really low time for me. I really struggled with it. But then the best, I've had a few bests. I've been really lucky and really fortunate. I'm going to go with the most recent best, which is when I found out that I'm getting a World Book Day book next year. And I stood in a room recently with all the other new World Book Day authors for next year, and just kind of had to pinch myself, because that is not something 10-year-old me would have ever imagined being able to do. World Book Day wasn't a thing when I was growing up, but if it had been, I would have been all over that, and I would have been collecting every single book. So that has got to be an absolute career highlight.
Amazing. Anybody else worst and best experiences?
My best, probably, I was very lucky to be a World Book Day illustrator 3 years ago. And that was great. But I think my favorite experiences have been kind of seeing readers and going to schools and doing small workshops in libraries, hearing feedback of your illustrations, and some occasional times when it's inspired people to do their own drawing, and seeing fan art. The worst, maybe, I think the illustrator earlier mentioned it, is kind of the waiting between saying you're going to be working on this book and then getting the contract 6 months later. So you always have to kind of be wary that you're only going to start the job once you get the contract. So you always have to get other jobs to fill in gaps. And there's been moments where people come late and I'm already working on another project, and I have to say no. And then
then they still want the dates to be the same dates.
I think, scheduling may be the worst side of it.
Okay. Do you have any?
Yeah, so I was trying to think of what to say. So something which might be the best or the worst combined. At a school visit, a boy asked me once, he said, how much would you rate your book out of 10? He asked me. And I thought, yeah, that's really difficult, because, if I give a high amount, then that means I'm boasting. And if I give a low amount, that means I'm telling them that my book is rubbish. So I said, I find it really difficult to rate my own books. So how much would you give me out of 10? And then it was like, about a 7. And the teacher was so shocked, but I appreciated his 7, because a 7 from him was, probably very, very honest. So it was better than a 10 from the teacher, who wanted him to just pipe down and sit down. So yeah, that was
as a storyteller, I have learned never to say, do you want a story? And they all will say no sometimes. So never ask them how to rate a book, and you never know what answer you're going to get. Do you have any worst and best?
Yeah, I think the worst would be as an author, I guess I've always thought, especially when I was younger, you're an author if your book's in Waterstones. And there's been times that I've had a book published and I go to Waterstones and my book's not there. And it's that sinking feeling of, oh, it is not real. It's not a big deal. That would be the worst moment. But I think the best moment is really just if a child comes up to me and they're just like the other day I was doing a school visit for a new book, and a child came up to me and she was like, I read your other book, and she was like, and she was a brown girl, and she was just like, and I related so much, and she looked like me, and I loved it, and it just, those little moments just make me so happy, and it just makes it all worth it.
You have any? Did you already? No, you didn't share.
Yeah, kind of the same stuff.
School visits are
visit.
always the best, isn't
Yeah.
it? And contract process always worst.
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions? You have anything from
We
the?
have one just back here.
Yeah.
I just wanted to build on what Niz said earlier about feeling insulted when she was offered an educational text. So you've got to be very wary. So I'm going to be very candid, as I always am. I was offered $650 for a phonics book. Guess how many words that book had? 50 words.
20 words.
50 words, okay? A year later, from the same publisher, different department, I was offered £2,000 for a 20,000 word book. I was so insulted. I said no. Initially, I said, no, I don't have time. I was really mad. They came back 6 months later, said, oh, is she ready now? And I said, no, I'm not taking this because I could write 20,000 words for a commercial book, get a hell of a lot more and get it everywhere. Why would I spend a year of my life for £2,000, which is going to be maybe bought in schools? They went back, my agent went back, immediately they went up to £4,000. I still said no because I was really insulted by that point. I was like, so you had the £4,000, but you exploited me. And why would I? So you can see the discrepancy for what's the maths? 2,000 take away 650, 1,350 more. They were asking for essentially 19,000 words more. So you've got to be really, really wary that there are many departments in a publisher, and they exploit you. And it is really, really tempting to say yes, but you've got to hold your own. And sometimes it's better to wait and invest that time and energy in something that will be worth your while. Take your time, don't mean so much of a rush. The better books take a while to ferment and write. And then one more thing. What was it? What was it? Oh, publishing, what Sufiya was saying. I think industry-wide, the main problem is that they don't have a strategy. So, I mean, was it last week or the week before? Walker, on their Instagram page, had 20 books. Why? Why are you publishing 20 books in 1 month? You are not marketing 18 of those books. I've only seen marketing for 2 of them. So we've really got to push back industry-wide, not just culturally. They've got to stop publishing so many books, trying to hit them at a wall. No one does this. I mean, you don't produce food or tins of different types of food and just like leave it hidden away in a corner and hope that somebody finds them. They market their food, you know, like businesses market their stuff. So we've got to push back and really ask them to think about what they want to publish fewer books and market them properly. I really think that's the main thing. Like, yes, we need cultural staff, we need diverse staff, but we also need fewer books for those staff because they're just run down. I've got a South Asian editor, a publicist at Scholastic. She's all over the shop. She's got so many books to promote. I don't blame her for not getting to mine. It's just not, strategy's not there. It's a really silly.
I think even booksellers would agree, and Sanchita would agree with that, hopefully, that there are too many books coming into the shop. I think there is one online question and then one Shireen as well here. And I think we have 4 minutes left, so those are the last 2 questions. No, you don't have a question? Okay. Okay.
So online, they're saying, do you feel social media presence has helped to promote your book sales?
Do you think your social media presence has helped with your books?
Only from the point of view that the teachers are on social media, so you connect with them and then they'll buy into the schools and you get school visits and then they might use it as a class read, which will, you know, there's a ripple effect in that sense. But in terms of becoming a bestseller through social media, no.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think primarily when I went onto social media for authoring and writing stuff, it was to connect with people and to connect with a community, which is, I have got that from that. I think more recently, I'm probably less inclined to post on social media. I'm only really posting on Instagram now. Yeah, in terms of book sales, I don't think it's really impacted at all.
I agree with all that.
Agree?
Yeah, I think when Twitter used to be a thing, I found that then it had a bit of an effect because a teacher Twitter was there. So lots of teachers, and they also had these things like the primary school book club. So that gets your book into the minds of lots of teachers who might then read it to their classes or recommend it to the children in their class. So, but I'm not on Twitter now, and I don't see that on Instagram, not on that scale at least. So I don't think it'll make a big difference if, I were to, today decide that I'm not going to do social media anymore. I don't think, there is some effect, but not enough to keep going if you don't want to.
I think if you're writing younger books, you're connecting with gatekeepers. If you're writing YA, then you're on TikTok connecting with the readers. But Twitter used to be a place where we connected with librarians and teachers, and we actually had conversations between ourselves, which has all gone away because now we are standing in somebody's backyard shouting because it's somebody else's house now. It fully belongs to somebody, and it's become really weird. So we all have left. Most of us have left. Sale, we removed the Twitter account as well, and we went into Instagram. Yeah, I think it doesn't necessarily make us bestsellers, but it does help for people to tag us. Illustrators, especially illustrators, are on Instagram. So we would like them to be tagged. So we're there just for that present.